What's up, Knucklehead? I am Lupine Fiasco, and this is your daily FaB gameplay. For anyone who's new to the channel, welcome to the jungle. What we do here is review replays of games that I played on the Talishar client days or weeks ago after enough time has passed that I lose my bias and can more objectively judge the quality of my play. I'll talk through turn cycles and give my thoughts on the line I would take now compared to the line I took then at the time of recording. We either learn from my mistakes or reinforce good play patterns with the overall goal of tightening and optimizing our gameplay in the future to take down paper events like the upcoming US Nationals and, most importantly, walk away with that shiny cardboard. If you would like to check out the deck I'm playing here or try it for yourself on Talishar, there is a FaB deck link available in the video description below. While you're down there, if you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to my channel. A YouTube subscription is the best free way to support me and to make sure that you see daily FaB gameplay in your video feed 5 days a week. The best paid way to support me is through Patreon, and a Patreon link is also in the video description. A Patreon subscription will get you access to the DFG Discord and the shiny cardboard Talishar card back. At higher tiers, your name will appear in every DFG video. You'll get bonus DFG content every week, and there are even more benefits to come. Daily FaB gameplay will always be free 5 days a week, so for those who can afford to patronize me, I truly appreciate it. Now, let's talk about our sideboard and about our game plan. We only have to look at the attendance for calling Warsaw last weekend to know that Kayo is everywhere, and if you are intending to play at a Tier 2 or higher event, be it a calling, nationals, anything else, you're going to run into a lot of Kayo, and if you are also on Kayo, you need to know how to play the mirror. It's going to happen. Fortunately, you should already know all of Kayo's tricks. You should be able to adequately read the situation when it comes to deciding if you're going to block with your flesh bag or if you need to block with cards from hand. Kayo is a very good numbers deck, very good math, high expected value, but as far as disruption, it's pretty non-existent. We've got Command and Conquer, Send Packing, Humble if you like that tech. Strength Rules All is technically a card that exists, though I wouldn't worry too much about it. Part the Mistveil is bringing some good new disruption. I don't know if we won't be playing any of it. This is not the open format queue, so none of that will be present. We are just going to play some good old-fashioned flesh and blood and try to beat our opponent before they can kill us. We lose the die roll and are chosen to go second. First rule of the Kayo mirror, don't go first if you can avoid it. You actively want to go second in this matchup. For one thing, you shouldn't be playing Cast Bones. That would be the reason to go first, is to set up a turn 1 Cast Bones. You could argue that we push better damage if you can put out that Wild Ride Mandible Claw 2 for 6 line with your opening hand. That, yeah, you're getting damage over the top of blocks. That is an expected 15 value plus the might. So if your opponent draws 4/3 blocks, they could only block 12 and they'll take 3. You give up your arsenal to make that happen, but in theory, you're winning the race. The problem is you aren't. You may deal 3 to 6, maybe even more damage than that, but your opponent is going to get the first real meaningful damage. If they can put out a 15 damage turn cycle, then they are now ahead on damage, and they have the same armor that you do, so eventually you will need to block before they need to block. I'm not talking about a hand that looks like 3-block, swing big yellow, something that really lends itself towards playing a mid-range plan. I'm talking about you want to be aggressive and you can't be because you would otherwise die. Always go second in the mirror if you have the choice. So our opponent going first here really does put them on the back foot early on. There isn't a ton to say about the Kayo mirror. We know what they're trying to do, and we just want to do it faster, so we will submit deck and see if I can do just that. This is, an okay hand for going second. We can only block 9, so if our opponent really goes for it, then we would be taking a little extra damage this turn. Unfortunately, we don't have a windup that we can discard. Our opponent does a little filtering, and we're going to take advantage of that. We're going to block with this E-Strike. The reason being that we have pulping in hand and a blue, so I already feel like I'm going to be able to send 2 or even 3 chain links on my next turn. E-Strike really gets in the way of that. If I play pulping, pitch riled up, say draw, discard something that doesn't matter, and my hand is just E-Strike runner, well, now I'm either pitching E-Strike to play runner, or I am playing E-Strike and bottoming runner, and I'm not getting that extra chain link. Let's say that I discard the runner and draw into another blue. Well, now it's either claw for 3 or E-Strike for 7. It really limits my options. E-Strike is a card that I like to have with 3 other attacks without go again, or if I have 2/3 blocks and a wind-up, I like to block with one of the 3 blocks, E-Strike for 7, and then discard a wind-up. But if I already have the cheater like pulping or wild ride, I really don't like E-Strike. It just clunks up a hand, and so I'm going to take the opportunity to filter it out of this hand and keep my pulping. Opposing Kayo discards the windup, makes might and agility, but does not use the action point generated from claw having go again. We draw into another blue, and so we are just going to play out the pulping and see what we can do with this hand. Unfortunately, we do discard our runner, but we draw into a run roughshod, and we have that floating resource. So the question is, do we value Mandible Claw this turn or Riled Up in Arsenal? So we could attack with Claw, pitch Riled Up, play run roughshod, and we get 8 more damage this turn, but no Arsenal. Or we use our floating resource, play run roughshod, and then Arsenal Riled Up. So we miss 3 points of damage this turn, but we do have a card in Arsenal. If Riled Up was a red, if Riled Up was a red, we would pitch run roughshod to claw 2 for 6. But let's say that it was something else. Let's say that for whatever reason we did actually want to Arsenal the red instead of just playing it here. I'd be a lot more interested in doing that. Now that said, I don't mind arsenaling the Riled Up here. Riled Up is a 3 for 5. It's potentially a 3 for 6. I think it's fine in Arsenal if it's the difference between pitching it to claw and playing. If it's attacking with the claw, that's fine. But I think we can create a situation where it is fine in Arsenal. We're opening ourselves up to Command and Conquer, potentially Send Packing, though even that could be beneficial. If we draw 4 reds and our opponent plays Send Packing, we have the ability to get Riled Up back into our hand that would let us pitch it. So all of this is to say that I don't feel super strong about arsenaling this Riled Up, but I am going to do it anyway. I do it in this game, and I agree with that decision, and I would do it again if I was playing this game now. But I'm not super committed to that line, and if I had taken the alternate path here and actually just pitched the Riled Up to get a claw in that turn, I wouldn't have hated that either. Now the hand we draw into is pretty bad, and we do immediately get punished with a Command and Conquer. Now at the same time, the only thing I really want to do with this hand is block. This hand is not very good. So I can cover up 7 with Savage Sash, Scab Skins, and one of these 2 Assault and Batteries. At this point, what I'm looking to do with this hand is play my Riled Up by pitching one of my blues, then discarding an Agile windup to make Might and Agility and give my Riled Up +1 power, because I would have discarded a card with 6 or more power. So it is unfortunate that I have to care about this Command and Conquer. At the same time, this was a pretty good hand to have to care about Command and Conquer, because this hand wasn't really doing anything. So our opposing Kayo is just going to send a pulping for 6. I agree with blocking here, the reason being that I don't want to keep putting 3-cost blues into my arsenal. Doing it the one time was enough. And if I were to keep my Assault and Battery, the line I'm probably taking here is pitching it to play the Riled Up, discarding my blue Agile Windup, and then arsenaling my yellow Agile Windup. Having a 3 for 6 in the arsenal isn't terrible, but I'm also fine with just not doing that, just getting some defensive value. We give up a decent amount of armor to make that turn happen. At the same time, we're 8 points up on our opposing KO, and they're going to take 7 more damage. We set up Might and Agility. They also have Might and Agility, but we're up 15 points, and especially if they're going to open with Assault and Battery to take advantage of that Agility, it's all good with me. So we know that our opposing KO has a blue Mighty Windup in hand. We're already not going to block this Assault and Battery. It's just 6 damage. There's no on-hit tied to this. We could think about blocking with Flesh Bag, and maybe that denies our KO the opportunity to pitch that blue to play something like a Swing Big. Maybe we even intimidate away the blue and catch them with just that red that now ends their turn. But we're up 31-21. We have no arsenal that could be threatened by a Command and Conquer or a Send Packing. So I don't really feel like I need to be very aggressive with my Flashback here. I can save it, considering that my KO has Agility. A 5-card Blood Rush could be very devastating if we have a chance to interact with it. Meanwhile, on my side of the table, I do have a Blood Rush. I have a Beast Within. We don't have any blues to pay for this, but we do have that Agility, and we have Savage Sash. So I'm not opposed to really looking for it here. Depending on what our opposing KO does, we could also just block this with Command and Conquer, and even our Apex Bonebreaker. Maybe get some Bonebreaker value here, and then throw Swing Big for 10. And Arsenal of Blood Rush. That sounds pretty good. Maybe not giving up the Bonebreaker, we can hold on to that to cover a 7-power Command and Conquer with a 3 block from hand, the Bonebreaker, and the Flesh Bag. But I don't think that I need to go for the Blood Rush here. I think we could just block with the CNC for sure, and then throw that Swing Big for 9. Arsenal of the Blood Rush. We'll lose out on our Agility, but we are throwing 9 damage, and we still have our Flesh Bag. It's the line I decide on. Throw that Swing Big for 9, and just try to set up. Maybe we can draw into some Go again. That'll pair well enough with the Blood Rush that we don't miss having our Agility. If I had a blue, if that Swing Big was a blue, I would have happily fired off Blood Rush there. This hand lends itself pretty well to trying to set up that big Blood Rush play. We do have the Agile Windup that we can discard on our turn to make Might and Agility. Maybe we just block this Bare Fangs with a Run Roughshod, take 7, and then throw the Pack Hunt. The other line we could take to do a little more damage is block Bare Fangs with Pack Hunt and Bonebreaker. Again, maybe we don't have to use Bonebreaker. Block with Pack Hunt, take 7, go to 19. Then we attack with Mandible Claw, pitch our Riled Up, discard our Agile Windup to give it Go again, make the Might and Agility for our Blood Rush, and then play Run Roughshod. And we get that 3-card 10 that Run Roughshod enables. And I like doing that. Apparently I disagree in the past. Let's see what line I'm going to take here. Also, okay, just waiting to see what my opposing KO is going to do with that Go again. I think that's fine. I do still think we should block with the Pack Hunt. So not getting the Bonebreaker value, again, that's totally fine. We can actually leverage Bonebreaker to cover a 7-power CNC or Send Packing. But we do take the conservative line of blocking with the Pack Hunt as opposed to playing that 5-card Blood Rush, but without agility. What we'd really love to do here is play a 5-card Blood Rush with agility. And hopefully our opposing Kayo doesn't pressure us really in any meaningful way. They do get the 7-power Send Packing. Oddly, we draw into another Blood Rush. So we have a few options available. We could just take this 7 and lose our Blood Rush because we have another one. The other thing we can do is block with Fleshbag, Bonebreaker, and the Blood Rush in our hand, and then get our second Blood Rush back and still have our big Blood Rush turn. Only 4 cards, but we can't make it 5. We don't have the armor for that. The problem with doing this with blocking with armor is that we don't get Bonebreaker or Fleshbag value. The advantage to doing it is that we stay at 16, and we know we're going to have a pretty spicy turn to fire back at our opponent. If we put ourselves at 9, yes, we still have Fleshbag, but we are now in a position where our opposing Kayo can just block for 6 every turn and then throw Swing Bigs and Bear Fangs and really deny us our Fleshbag value, outside of it just being 2. So rather than putting ourselves down to 9, I do like blocking 7 here, replacing our Blood Rush in hand with the one in our Banish, but just staying at a healthy life total, knowing that we're about to play a Blood Rush, we have agility, we have Savage Sash. Depending on what we draw and discard, we can still play around our opponent's Fleshbag. And with 2 resources floating and Savage Sash available, that's exactly what we can do. We can just open with a Pack Hunt, intimidate away one of our opponent's cards. This is going to be coming in for 9, and then we follow up with 8. So we are threateningly lethal if our opponent doesn't block with armor. We're making blocks from hand awkward for them with the Pack Hunt. They are going to Fleshbag us. We are going to get to play another red card. So we are still coming in with 2 reds this turn, and then we get to arsenal something with Go again. And that sounds really, really good to me. There would be a reason for me to open up with a Pulping if my opponent didn't have Fleshbag, because there's a chance that I draw a discard into a blue to get a Mandible Claw into this turn as well. But because our opponent does have Fleshbag, there is no reason for me to open up with one of these draw discard effects. I just want to get my Intimidate trigger and then continue to throw damage. So we don't deal a ton of damage. We only actually affect our opponent's life total by 7, but we have a really good turn lined up. We got their Fleshbag. We have a Pulping in Arsenal. Our opponent doesn't have an Arsenal. So if they do draw into Reckless Swing, they can't stop our Pulping unless we miss. So do we want to block this Swing Big at all? And the answer is probably no. You know, we could block with Command and Conquer and Bonebreaker and make our might, prevent some of this incoming damage. But the other thing we can do is just play our Pulping, pitch our Run Roughshod, and try to draw into a blue, so that we can claw Swing Big or claw CNC or something else. So we're at 16. We can go down to 8 and be totally fine. Another thing to keep in mind is that if we use our life as a resource here and we keep cards in hand so that we can threaten Kayo's life total, we are taking away his ability to use his Savage Sash. If we can strip his hand and make it so he can't do even a 3-card Blood Rush, it's going to be very hard for him to get Sash value outside of something that he could have done with Tunic or Hardened Crosstrap. And that's great. That's fantastic news. So to that effect, we're pitching our yellow to play our Mandible Claw, and then we're going to play Swing Big and pitch Command and Conquer. So we're not going to worry about keeping an arsenal, because what we want to do instead is just get cards out of Kayo's hand. And we see that he is having to, 1, lose a 3-card Blood Rush hand. 2, he either has to block with 2 cards from hand, or he has to give us armor to even just stay alive at 1. And that means that our Savage Sash enabled a 16-point turn. Our opposing Kayo's Savage Sash blocked for 1. And that's great value for us. So there is an advantage to saving our armor for as long as we can, sitting on that sash, but if you treat your life as a resource too often, you are going to run into a position where you no longer get to use sash because you can't keep the cards in hand. We've got a Bear Fangs coming in for 8. Now we could just give armor and stay alive at 2 and try to crack back. We have the Pulping that is very likely lethal damage. The one thing we need to keep in mind is that without knowing if our opposing KO is on Reckless Swing, we want to stay above 2, and ideally we would stay above 3, just in case our Pulping draw discards a Beast Within. If the Beast Within even just puts us to 2 and our opposing KO has Reckless Swing, then we die with resources available. So what I would like to do here is block with Wrecker Romp, Bonebreaker, and Leathers. Take 3, go to 5, play Pulping, pitch Smash Instinct. We're very likely to just win the game because our KO can't block Pulping. But even if they somehow manage to stay alive, we probably still have Pack Hunt for the arsenal, or could even pitch it to Mandible Claw. I don't know, I'd rather have a card in arsenal. Now we could just also block with 2 cards from hand, block with the Pack Hunt and a Wrecker Romp, maybe even the Bonebreaker and just take 1. But I don't really see a problem with keeping a card for the arsenal if Pulping doesn't get us there. Taking a look at the might here, just trying to decide if Pulping for 8 is more relevant than Pulping for 7. I've been learning lately that it's good to keep Wrecker Romps in the deck for games that go late, just so that you can turn on those late game Bonebreakers that might really matter. It doesn't matter here. The Pulping hits, so it does have Dominate. KO is not able to block it, and we do pick up a win. So we see that our opposing KO did actually get more value per turn than we did, but it really was just that they chose to go first. So we got an extra turn where we could block because we get to replenish our hand on our opponent's first turn. And we got an extra turn of being able to be aggressive and offensive in a way that they couldn't be. So I've since played another KO on Talishar that won the die roll and chose to go first. And I'm here to tell you, don't go first. If you have the choice, if you win the die roll in the KO mirror, go second. It is going to benefit you. The high roll is Cast Bones, but I don't even think we should be playing Cast Bones in this matchup. I think it's too slow for an aggro matchup like the KO Mirror or, Azalea, Ninja. Just take out Cast Bones, go second, leverage that turn 2, that second turn tempo advantage, and win your games based off of that. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something. If so, be sure to assault and batter that like button. My comments are always open for any questions or feedback. If you haven't already done so, please consider a YouTube subscription. It's free. It helps me out a lot. But no matter what you do, catch me back here tomorrow for more daily FaB gameplay. And until then, take care.